Am I the jerk for refusing to raise my siblings' child for them? I was adopted by the people I consider my real parents when I was 7 years old. My biological father is my adopted mother's brother, and she adopted my sister and me from him because he is mentally unstable. We were all raised with the knowledge that we were adopted. If I am being honest, the notion of adoption is not really a thing in my culture, as biological parenthood is very important. Families will just take in a child from an incompetent relative and raise them alongside their own children, but the child is always aware of who their biological parents are. The biological parents are usually involved as well, but are not the child's primary guardians, and the child usually goes back to their biological parents once they are more stable. My younger brother, who is 17 years old, is a troublemaker, and he got his ex-girlfriend pregnant. Furthermore, he cheated on her, and she wants nothing to do with him. She figured out she was pregnant too late to get an abortion in our state, and her parents will not let her travel to get one. She wants nothing to do with my brother and our family, and I cannot blame the poor girl. Initially, my mother was going to take the baby and raise it, but obviously, considering how things are done in my culture, my mother was expecting my brother's ex-girlfriend to be involved. Even when my mother promised that she would let her sign over parental responsibility and move on, she just did not seem genuine about it. The ex-girlfriend decided to just speak to an adoption agency and adopt the baby out externally. This upset my mom, as you probably guessed why. Blood is very important to her. My husband and I had been struggling to conceive, so I offered to take the baby. I explained that I would only do it if it was a real adoption, not like how my culture does it where I would just be raising the baby for my brother. I made it clear that the baby was not a toy to be passed around, and that I would not be giving the child back when my brother finally gets his life together in 15 years. My brother's ex-girlfriend was happy with this arrangement, and we have been in the process of getting paperwork started. Everyone in the family is upset. They think I am being unnecessarily difficult by going against our cultural conventions just because I am infertile and want a baby. My mother thinks that I am being selfish because I was basically raised in the way I am refusing to raise this child, and that I am being hypocritical. She thinks I should raise the child with the knowledge of who their real parents are, which is something I would share with them anyway when the time is right, and give my brother an opportunity to learn to be a father. I do not think I am the asshole, but given the cultural perspective and the nature of my own upbringing, I am starting to think I may be being a bit hypocritical. A child is not a toy to be passed around, and it's important to prioritize their well-being over anyone else's convenience. If little brother wants to learn to be a parent, he can start now, but the child's needs come first. Do not let them badger you into compromising on this, because the long-term effects of parental abandonment can be severe. What's best for him isn't what's best for the baby, and the child deserves a stable and loving environment. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law she doesn't need to fight an imaginary battle for me? I love my mother-in-law genuinely. She was always very kind and accepting to me. She was never the crazy mother-in-law who didn't want her son with anyone or who compared me to an ex. She also never interfered before, which is why this is so difficult for me. This is about her issue with me not being on the pickup list for my stepchildren at school or activities. This is not something my husband just decided I couldn't do. Both my husband and the mother of my stepchildren need to agree and sign off on a person being added to the pickup lists. This is outlined in their custody order that was set by the judge. The reason for this rule is simple. When their relationship first ended, they disagreed a lot and carried on for too long, so a judge stepped in and made the rule that both needed to agree. While my husband did ask his ex for me to be added, she said no, so I don't go on the pickup list. A judge backed her no since it fits with the both parents must agree rule. Is it a pain sometimes? Yes. Is it something I'm extremely bothered by? No, I see a saying state. I'll do never I'll. I knew before we got married that she would not agree to me being on that list or anybody my husband is with. His ex is just not okay with that. When the children are sick, I am never called. I cannot pick them up from school early for any reason. I cannot pick them up from school or an activity in general because they only release them to people on the list. Their school is very high security. This is something my mother-in-law became more aware of last month when my stepson got sick in school and needed someone to pick him up. My husband and the mother of my stepchildren were not around. Neither was her mother. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were out of town when they got the call. She suggested I be called and found out I was not allowed to because I'm not on the list. She went to my husband and tore him apart for not approving me for this. She said he married me and had a child with me, almost 2, I'm expecting again, and if he trusts me that much, he can add me to the list. He explained why he couldn't, which is something she was aware of. But my mother-in-law said he was showing no consideration or trust in me. My mother-in-law ended up telling me how sorry she was my husband was doing this to me. She told me she'd keep fighting him for me over this. I told her there was no need for her to fight for me, that it's not a battle to me, and I understand. She said I need someone to fight this battle when I could be accused of being too pushy. I told her she doesn't need to fight an imaginary battle because that's all this would be. There was no dispute between me and my husband over this. I told her I appreciated her defending me and love her for wanting to support me, but it's fine. She was upset. She told me she felt like I was brushing off how much she cares about me and wants the best for me with my stepchildren. I notice ever since she has looked very hurt. Am I the asshole? I think your mother-in-law is upset because her grandchild was negatively affected by this situation, and it's possible she's just feeling a bit embarrassed that she went so hard to defend you. Although her intentions were sweet and showed she cares, it wasn't received the way she intended. Give it a couple of days and have another conversation with her when it isn't so fresh. You and your husband are not at fault either because there isn't anything you can do about it. Am I the jerk for telling my sibling to listen to their children instead of trying to make things work? My brother was married for many years and had 3 children with his ex-wife. 7 years ago, they divorced. 4 years ago, my brother got serious with his current wife, and they have 2 children together, 1 born and another on the way. My brother's children from his relationship with his ex-wife are now all teenagers to young adults, 19 and under. It was pretty clear from the beginning that the children were not okay with him remarrying. They pulled back, and he followed after them so they wouldn't withdraw too much. He made the effort to get them and his wife on good terms, and to come to terms with new babies on the way. No matter what my brother does, the children are not okay with it, and they told him directly that they don't want a step-family, so they are choosing not to have a relationship with him. He has ignored this and continues to chase them. He tried therapy, but the children refused to participate. They attended physically but said nothing. He has tried going out with all the children to eat and encouraging them to interact with the youngest, but they did not. Now, 2 of them no longer go to his house at all and make 0 effort to stay in touch, while the youngest of the 3 goes only when legally obliged to and uses all their time doing other things, so they are not with them. They do not see blended families as real families, do not want to be in one, do not want to accept siblings that are not full-blooded siblings, and do not want to have a parent's spouse in their lives. Nothing and nobody can change their minds. When my brother spoke to me recently about how sad it makes him, I empathized with him and offered him a shoulder to lean on and support. I told him he did all he could to make it work. When he said he just didn't know what to do, I told him he needs to start listening to the children instead of trying to make things work. I reminded him that the children have been very clear about their feelings on his remarriage and additional children. And if they refuse to give therapy a try and refuse to be around him, then he needs to listen and refocus because it won't do his younger 2 children any good to be rejected constantly. It won't bring the children in if they're so anti-blended family. He told me he was very disappointed that I wouldn't see that he can't do that as a parent and that it's his job to keep trying and never give up. Am I the asshole? The kids have a pretty odious attitude towards blended families, and they don't see them as real families at all. Your brother needs to focus on his relationship with his kids and give up on forcing the step-family idea onto them. It's clear that nothing and nobody can change their minds about blended families. This sounds like something they were taught, not something inherent, and your brother can't control other people's perspectives. Am I the jerk for refusing to share some recipes with my sister-in-law? I, a 34-year-old man, love to cook. It's a passion of mine. I really enjoy cooking for others and making my own recipes. Having children with my husband, a 33-year-old man, made me decide to start my own recipe book so that I can better keep track of dishes our children love. It's also nice to think I could share it with them someday if either of them loves to cook like me. My husband's sister, a 37-year-old woman, and I got along really well for years. We occasionally talked about cooking, but other topics were more her interest, and therefore our thing. Our relationship changed when my husband and I welcomed our oldest child into the family. My husband believes his sister was jealous of our daughter's name because she knew it was his favorite for a girl for several years, and she did not get her favorite girl name with any of her 3 daughters. So she took it out on me because she thought I should have refused and made sure neither of them got their favorite girl name. I can see that being true. I also think she may judge the fact that I am the stay-at-home dad, while my husband, who is transgender, gave birth to our children but became the working dad. Regardless, my sister-in-law has not been the same with me since and shows so much attitude. She tosses regular sarcastic comments my way, and she's always slightly rude or demeaning to me now. She also insulted my cooking, which she always complimented before, saying she had lied all those other times and it always made her puke afterward. I'm sick of it. We hardly ever see her anymore because of this, so much that I would consider us low contact. The last 2 family dinners we had with my husband's family, I helped my mother-in-law out and did the cooking because she's dealing with some bad arthritis symptoms now. The first time, I made a veggie stir-fry. The second time, I made a chicken curry. The food went down really well. My sister-in-law's children love the food I made, and she got super frustrated because apparently they don't ever eat well for her or enjoy what she makes. She alluded to this when she asked me to share the 2 recipes with her. I told her no. I suggested she look up recipes she thought were similar, but I told her she didn't get to be rude to me, insult me and my cooking, and then come looking for my recipes. She called me petty, arrogant, and bitchy, and claimed I should grow the fuck up. Am I the asshole? You did nothing wrong here. If she asks again, remind her that she said your food made her vomit. and you can't in good conscience give her the recipes. She specifically insulted your cooking so she can pound sand. You aren't obligated to help her out, especially given her callous and insulting behavior towards you. Am I the jerk for telling my sister maybe it's a good thing she can't have kids? This is the conversation I had with my family on Father's Day. About 2 weeks ago, I noticed my oldest daughter Kelly, who is 15 years old, acting differently. She was taking lots of food into her room, being really secretive, and doing laundry late at night. I was concerned, especially when I asked my other daughters, who are 13 and 11 years old, about it, and they acted suspiciously. I noticed Kelly going into her room with a packet of ham, and I followed her in. She instantly jumped in front of the closet, screaming at me to leave. Obviously, alarm bells went off, so I told her to move. Long story short, there was a stray cat and 2 young kittens. My daughter told me that when she found cheese, she knew a weak and hungry pregnant cat didn't have a chance, so she spent all her time and savings to help her as best she could for the past few weeks. Now, obviously, she shouldn't be bringing animals into our home and hiding things from us, but I'm not going to punish my kid for doing a good thing, even though she went about it the wrong way. We had a long conversation about everything and have taken them to the vet to be checked out. We decided to keep the mother cat, cheese, and the kittens, pickles and ham. My wife always wanted a cat, so everyone was happy. Most of my family found it a cute story, but my youngest sister, who is 32 years old, said, "You know, if it were me, I'd ground her for the whole summer without a phone. I'd make her walk into the animal shelter to drop them off, and then tell her that she can't have a pet until she moves out. I'd cancel her birthday in July to replace the cost of all the food she gave to that thing. Call me petty, but I'd even show her missing cat pictures and ask where she hid them." Now, this isn't the first or 100th time my sister has said, if I had kids, and suggested a punishment that was over the top. I just looked at her and said, "Maybe it's best you don't have kids." My sister teared up and then excused herself, and my brother-in-law started yelling. He said that I knew how much they'd struggled with infertility and how many rounds of IVF they've been through. He called me a cruel asshole for making that comment on a day I knew they struggled with. My siblings are on my side because they're sick of her attitude, but my parents are extremely angry. My mom won't even talk to me until I beg for my sister's forgiveness. You did nothing to be ashamed of. Your sister took a teachable moment and transformed it into a PLDO camp. She seems excited at the opportunity for cruelty, thinking, "How can I do the most damage to this kid?" What a kind, loving daughter you have, and your other 2 girls are amazing for protecting her. Your sister would destroy her child's soul with multiple punishments like that for simply doing a good deed. Am I the jerk for telling my cousin that they haven't been through anything? I normally stay at my cousin's house during the summer, and my cousin and her father got into an argument. My cousin is really spoiled. She was talking about what she didn't get for her birthday, and it angered her father. He said in response, "You have no idea what it is like to struggle. You are so weak." A very horrible thing to say to your daughter, of course. But to defend him, our parents are immigrants who literally left a war-torn area after their house was burned down. My cousin's parents came here with nothing and worked incredibly hard to open up a business and become as successful as they are now. They have everything now. They have a successful business and a big house. But they worked really hard for that. My cousin has been really upset about what he said. She has told all her friends and her family, and we've all heard it multiple times. She is angry. The thing is, she has been saying things like, "I've never had to struggle?" He has no idea. "I am the strongest person I know." Her friends agreed with her. She said, "I never cry, and I take everything head on. I never get upset, and none of my friends have ever seen me cry." What is he talking about? This rubbed me the wrong way, and her talking about how strong she was made me snap. I told her she is privileged. She lives in New York City and goes out partying constantly. Who is paying for that? Her parents. They pay her rent and tuition, and they're awesome. She lives in a big house. No, she has never cried because she has nothing to cry about. She grew up rich with everything. Meanwhile, I grew up poor. I have to pay for my own college. I have to stress about financial aid covering my rent. I have abusive parents who I cut off and don't even talk to. She thinks she has it rough? She has lived such an easy life because of her parents. She's never had to struggle like me or like some of her other cousins, and she will never have to. The second I said this, she cursed me out. She told me to leave her alone and go away forever. She's not even talking to me. I've never seen her so mad. Am I the asshole? You behaved properly. If she weren't living in her delusions, she wouldn't be that mad. Her dad should stop paying for everything and let her find a job and struggle like a regular person. It's a big disservice to keep giving her everything while calling her weak when she hasn't even had the chance to change. Your cousin should be more aware of her privilege, but she doesn't deserve to be dismissed as weak just because she hasn't struggled materially. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.